Okay, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's explainer. We're heading to India to explore a massive paradigm shift happening in agriculture right now. It's a chemical-free revolution, and it moves completely away from relying on industrial machinery and toxic inputs. Instead, farmers are partnering with a massive, entirely unseen agricultural workforce. We're going to see exactly how organisms, from microscopic bacteria in the dirt to the insects flying right above the canopy, are working together to completely redefine sustainable farming.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for the explainer. 1. India's natural farming revolution. 2. Transforming waste into nutrients. 3. Earthworms, the soil engineers. 4. Ladybugs, the pest predators. And 5. Cultivating biological farming habitats.
Section 1. India's Natural Farming Revolution.
Now, you might be wondering, what if a farmer's absolute best workers were entirely invisible? It demands a profound shift in how we think, right? We have to look beyond the big tractors and synthetic fertilizers and focus on the biological allies right beneath our feet. For decades, the industrial model has relied on dumping external synthetic inputs onto the land. But natural farming in India asks a radically simple question. What if we simply leverage the ecosystem that's already there, just waiting to be put to work?
This really highlights the stark contrast between the negative feedback loop of conventional agriculture and the restorative, self-regulating ecosystem of natural farming. On the left, conventional farming basically strips the soil of its natural life, creating this endless dependency on chemical fertilizers that degrade the land over time. But on the right, zero-budget natural farming, or ZBNF, mimics nature. It operates on the idea that plants and soil biology, when kept in balance, can provide all the nutrients and pest protection a crop actually needs without the crushing financial burden of buying toxic chemical sprays.
Section 2. Transforming waste into nutrients.
Let's zoom way in on this beautiful four-step biological dance. It is literally the foundation of a healthy crop. First, photosynthesis happens, where plants produce simple sugars. But here's the cool part. They don't just hoard these sugars, they actually inject them down into the soil as root exudates. This feeds a massive microbial workforce of bacteria and fungi, which then go to work decomposing organic waste and literally mining rocks. Finally, when microscopic predators eat those bacteria, they excrete a nutrient-dense liquid food source right at the plant's roots. It's a perfect closed-loop economy.
Okay, this is absolutely wild. Plants intentionally pump up to 40% of their hard-earned carbon straight into the soil just to feed their microbial workforce. I mean, think about that. They are basically making a massive, calculated investment in the soil food web, knowing that keeping these microbes well-fed is the absolute only way they'll get the essential minerals and nutrients they need to grow strong.
So how do Indian farmers jumpstart this microscopic nutrient engine? Well, they use something called Jivamrita. Think of it as an incredibly powerful probiotic for the earth. By combining native cow dung and urine with jaggery and pulse flour, farmers brew this fermented microbial culture. When they apply it to the field, it introduces literally billions of beneficial bacteria that immediately start breaking down biomass and loading the soil up with organic carbon. It completely eliminates the need to buy synthetic fertilizers.
Section 3. Earthworms, the soil engineers. Scaling up just a bit, we meet the ultimate agricultural engineers, the humble earthworm. And there's a very good reason they've historically been called the farmer's best friend. Just having these guys actively working in the dirt can bump pastoral productivity up by a massive 25%. They're basically a biological indicator of healthy soil. If you've got worms, you've got a thriving ecosystem that is retaining water, cycling nutrients, and setting crops up for major success.
As you can see, earthworms are essentially pulling double duty here. First, they're mechanical engineers. By digging those deep burrows, they aerate the soil and increase water penetration by up to 10 times. They're nature's plows. Second, they are literal biochemical reactors. They eat organic waste, and as it passes through their gut, it gets super enriched. The resulting castings, or worm waste, contain 5 times more nitrogen, 7 times more phosphorus, and 1,000 times more beneficial bacteria than the surrounding dirt. And here is their absolute hidden superpower, producing chitin chiase. This gives plants a systemic, completely chemical-free defense against pests. When roots absorb this enzyme from the worm castings, the plant itself becomes fortified. If an insect, like an aphid, tries to feed on the plant's sap, that chitin chiase enters the insect and literally begins to dissolve its exoskeleton from the inside out. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's just a built-in, entirely natural pest control system driven by the soil itself.
Section 4. Ladybugs, the pest predators.
Now, let's move above ground into the plant canopy, where we find the ultimate predatory sentinels, ladybugs. A single ladybug doesn't just snack on a few pests. No way! It can devour an astonishing 5,000 destructive insects over its lifetime. Much like the earthworm below the ground, the ladybug is widely considered the farmer's best friend above the ground. They are this highly efficient, highly mobile biological control agent that fiercely protects crops from infestations.
Okay, let's dive into these numbers because they are staggering. The alligator-like ladybug larvae are so aggressively hungry, they consume their entire body weight in aphids every single day, and the adults are right behind them, eating dozens of pests daily. They specifically target soft-bodied insects that suck the vitality right out of the crops, providing a really intense, aggressive line of defense for the farmer.
Because of this voracious appetite, ladybugs naturally suppress pest populations, completely eliminating the need for farmers to fall back on toxic chemical sprays. By just allowing ladybugs to do the exact job they evolved to do, farmers save a ton of money on industrial pesticides, they protect their local water supply from toxic runoff, and they foster a rich, biodiverse environment that naturally keeps pest outbreaks completely in check.
Section 5. Cultivating biological farming habitats.
So you can't just cross your fingers and hope these insects and microbes show up, right? You actually have to design the farm to invite them in. Rather than attacking the farm with synthetics, Indian farmers use ecological engineering. They use a push-pull strategy, planting repellent crops to drive pests away and trap crops to catch them. They use border cropping, intentionally sowing bright flowers like marigolds to attract predators like our ladybugs. They leave flowering insectary strips as nectar refueling stations to keep those beneficial insects around even when pests are scarce. And crucially, they reduce tilling to protect those delicate earthworm burrows from getting shredded by heavy machinery.
Down in the soil, they follow some really core Indian natural farming pillars. The very first rule: avoid synthetic fertilizers, because they're basically toxic to earthworms and soil bacteria. Next, they actively apply that Jivamrutha we talked about to keep the microbial populations booming. Finally, they practice akachana, which is mulching. Leaving crop residue and organic waste right on the soil surface provides a protective cover that locks in moisture, and it gives earthworms the exact raw organic material they need to eat and transform into rich, fertile humus.
Which brings us to a final, really profound thought to consider. When this unseen workforce, from the sugar-trading microbes to the soil-engineering earthworms to the canopy-patrolling ladybugs, is ready to labor around the clock for absolutely free, why on earth do we continue to break the bank on toxic chemicals? The natural farming revolution happening right now in India proves that when we stop fighting nature and start actually partnering with it, the ecosystem doesn't just survive, it thrives. Thank you so much for exploring this amazing biological world with us today.